Hey guys.
Here we are again.
So we've learned. I've learned something about Hylea tonight. She has many talents. Preparing her children for feeding themselves is not one of those talents, apparently.
We just experienced right now the past 15 minutes is one for the books. It's too bad our listeners were not here in this
guys.
Here part of it.
This is hard. Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, teenage boys can't find a hot dog pot. I mean, it has to say, this is a hot dog pot.
Oh my God.
Fill till here.
They didn't know. It's really hard. But Jay had a good idea for them. They could use ChatGPT. I think that's the right. They have to learn on their own.
Yeah, I mean, some people using ChatGPT to solve astrophysics equations. Yeah. Some kids are using ChatGPT to figure out how to cook hot dogs. It's something for everybody, really.
It's so true.
It's a game changer.
It is.
I mean, otherwise we'd starve.
Yeah, seriously.
How are we going to eat those hot dogs?
Oh my God. Listen, they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out.
And then they'll get married and their wives will figure it out.
There you go.
Not to be, well, maybe they'll cook. Who knows? We'll see.
Last week, I had an opportunity to go down to a great bookstore in LA called The Last Bookstore. It's really an incredible used bookstore. Tens of thousands of books there. Happened to pick up a few. But one of them that I got was, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember exactly the title, but it was Big Issues in Judaism.
Oh.
Where people were discussing, and I guess the author must have sent out to maybe to a number of scholars about the big issues. And I thought maybe it would be interesting for us to take this and maybe revisit it. Now, some of those, this must be an old book, maybe from the 90s or maybe early 2000s, but maybe some of those issues are still relevant today.
Oh, I love that.
Maybe we would discuss some of the big issues in Judaism.
Oh, I love that.
Something like
I like having production meetings during the episode. That's perfect.
It would have been much simpler if they just brought us the questions. That way they wouldn't have had to bother with all these other people getting involved. They just could have gotten the answers much easier that way.
So true. But, no, that's a good idea. I like that.
Something that we can maybe add.
People often ask about contemporary issues that the Jewish people are facing. And, we just did an episode with Rabbi Daniel Levine on Jewish education. And I've gotten so many messages about it.
Yeah.
People really responding to it. And they have a lot of opinions about this topic. So, I'm sure there's a lot of issues that we could tackle.
Because it's sometimes, we think to ourselves, what should we... Here already, it's something that's already prepared for us.
Right.
Something already done.
That sounds great. That sounds great. But for now, we are continuing on our journey with King David. We've been with him for a couple of episodes already. Last time we did the story of David and Bathsheba, which we... I think did a good. I love that discussion. It was a really interesting, fun conversation.
I think we covered it from a number of different perspectives.
Exactly. I thought that was really
traditional
interesting.
Perspective, Jay's perspective. Even within the traditional, the commentaries are still unsure how to unpack it.
Right. Exactly.
Because the story unfolds as it is, but then you're talking about King David, so you're trying to kind of.
Be sensitive.
Exactly.
So we're going to go on today further into 2 Samuel, or Shmuel Beis, as we call it, and into another complicated story that has many layers of complication and pain and just interesting family dynamics. And we are at a point now, I don't want to summarize it too much because I don't remember that much, but I'll say what I remember so far is that David has a number of children, right, including Solomon from Bathsheba, but he has a bunch of sons from different wives. And we are going to see now a conflict arise between two of his sons, specifically the brothers Amnon and Absalom. And it's a painful story because, in a nutshell, Amnon rapes his.
Well,
do we need to build it up in a different way?
You tell the story,
Yeah, you can go ahead.
He kind of falls in love with his half sister.
Well,
that's basically what it is.
Falls in love is maybe a stretch,
after her.
Right?
There's a sister called Tamar.
And
he lusts after her. It's infatuation, for her,
right?
But I just want to say something before we get into the story,
okay?
Because it's like a bridge
Okay.
to last week's discussion. I mean, Jay was arguing, and I think rightfully so. I mean, you know what? You have to ultimately put some blame on King David's shoulders for the story. I mean, I tried to bring the traditional perspective of many commentators, you know, trying to justify the divorce and this and then, you know, and destiny. But Jay had a good point. I mean, when you read the story, I mean, David, if he was not accused of murder, I mean, you know, it's like The Godfather. You know, he gave him an option that he couldn't refuse.
Right.
You know, made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and that kind of is now going to carry over into the next stories that we are going to talk about. There's an old adage in the Talmud: the way a person acts is the way God reacts to him. I mean, if someone wants to come and repent, like, you know, we're in the month of Elul right now, someone wants to come and repent, God is going to send him opportunities. It's going to make it easier for him. If you show a countenance of graciousness, then you're going to be rewarded with graciousness from above. If, on the other hand, you refuse, you act like a dork, you know, the same thing is going to happen to you. Unfortunately, many of the commentators take this adage and now carry it over to the next stage of David's life. You see how David lived. He ended up with Bathsheba, but he didn't end up with Bathsheba in a normal situation. He did nefarious things, and these nefarious things are going to come back to bite him. So I just wanted to put that thought out because they don't just put these stories in because they want to just make us look bad.
Right.
I mean, these are terrible stories that we're going to be dealing with, and you know. But this is kind of, you know, the way we approach a situation is the way it's going to be reproached back, you know, back to us. So now we talk about the story of Amnon and Tamar, where Amnon is a king's son, Tamar is his daughter from two different wives. He lusts after her. He knows that it's improper, but he doesn't know what to do. He's lovesick. He's literally lovesick. So a friend of his that's quite a jerk, you know, convinces him, hey, you know what you got to do? You got to feign illness, you know, invite her, tell her to bring you food, and then, you know, like, you know, kind of seduce her. Well, that's what he does. You know, he says, oh, I'm so sick, I'm sick. You know, can Tamar make me a special soup? He sends everybody out of the room and he rapes her. She cries, you know, for police to plead with him that, you know, this is not right.
You're ruining my life,
and everything, and no, but he doesn't care. He's so overwhelmed with this raging passion that he has for her that he rapes her.
Wow.
Well, after he rapes her, she says to him, "Okay, you know, like you know, now that you've done this to me and you've insulted me and you've brought shame upon me, now you can't send me away." But he hates her now. Now he turns into abject hatred to him, and he kicks her out of the room, and you know, like, and now everybody knows the story that Amnon raped her, and it's a shame on the whole family. Okay, now it's interesting that the reaction that he has after he rapes her is this incredible sense of hatred, towards
like disgust,
her.
Almost.
You know, it's like it psychologically you can understand because she represented everything weak of him. You know, like he was a weakest person, even though he feigned to be this, you know, this strong, you know, prince, but he was a weak person, and she brought out his weakness, and that's, you know, like now he hated himself, but he didn't want to say I hate myself, so he projected it, you know, on Tamar, and he threw her out, you know, and of course she's shamed, you know, because now she's puzzled, you know, she's defiled, you know, so what's going to happen to her? Anyways, she has a brother by the name of Absalom. That is her full brother.
From the same mother,
who happens to be, according to most commentators, one of what we call a Isha Yafas Tohar. There is a rule in that when you go to war, and you see a beautiful non-Jewish woman, you may take her as a wife if she converts. So their mother was one of these women that David had seen, brought her into the palace and married her, even though she was not Jewish, but she through the conversion and all of that stuff. So that also lends the texture to the story that she's not like, you know, he married Saul's daughter Michal, he has on one side, and on the other side, he marries this Eishes Yefas Toar. He marries this foreign woman that he saw during a battle, but she's gorgeous. I mean, imagine you came to America and you had the pick of the litter of everybody here in California. I mean, you conquered California, and you saw this beautiful movie star, and you took her for your wife. She had to want to go.
Right.
I mean, she's one. He didn't kidnap her, but you could see the juxtaposition over here. Yeah. The dynamics is so.
But can I ask you a question though? Yeah. Because in the Torah, like in this part of in history, in Jewish history, like are siblings from the same father but not the same mother considered different than brothers from the same mother?
Yes.
Okay.
Brothers from the same father inherit each other. Brothers from the same mother don't. I mean, it's
from different mothers.
From different mothers,
right?
From different.
So it's
same mothers.
Oh, same mother.
From the same mothers, different fathers.
Oh, different fathers.
Different fathers, but the same mother.
But is there no? I'm sorry, I'm asking the question incorrectly. Is there a difference between a sibling from two of the same parents versus if you have a different mother? Like Amnon in this situation, Amnon and Absalom are from different mothers. Are they considered full siblings? Like, are they
brothers?
Siblings?
They're brothers. They are brothers.
So he raped his sister, basically.
It's his half sister,
right? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yes.
I'm trying to.
It's his half sister.
He couldn't have married her.
No, he could not have married her.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
absolutely not. So of course Absalom, he's a warrior. Hears about this, but he's smart enough to play the long game. So everything goes normal for a while.
But why doesn't David do anything? This reminds me of Jacob and the Dinah. He's
caught betwixt his love for Tamar and his love for Amnon. He's humiliated, but he realizes that part of this is coming down, like Jay mentioned last week. This is kind of following a pattern here,
right?
He did this to Uriah, and now this is coming back to haunt him.
Right.
Look what I brought into my family here.
Right.
And I brought this kind of thing. So, he's, so it passes, sort of. But Absalom is playing the long game. Amnon thinks that, things are okay. And then, of course, he makes a feast, Absalom, invites everybody and tells the general, when he comes and I say kill, you kill him. And guess what happens? The guy Amnon shows up. Absalom gives the order to kill him, and he kills him. And Amnon is killed.
Amnon dies.
Amnon is killed.
Wow.
So now Amnon is killed.
It's like
David.
It's like the Red Wedding.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, it's the Red Wedding.
Exactly.
The Red Wedding.
It's like the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
So now King David is brokenhearted because a brother killed a brother. Absalom is now on the outs with King David for killing him, because even though that he did something nefarious, but King David didn't think it was worthy of death. But Amnon would not forgive, so he's on the way out. And this causes kind of a conflict between David and Absalom, where Absalom now, is on the outs.
It's really like Jacob and when Levi and Shimon go and punish Shechem, who raped Dinah.
Exactly.
It's very similar to that story, where the fathers kind of don't respond to the rape, and then the brothers get angry and seek revenge, and then the fathers don't know how to handle the brothers who did that. So it's like an interesting kind of tale that is kind of a second telling of the story.
And then of course, then what happens? Of course, now there's a falling out, between King David and Absalom. Absalom doesn't want to come to the court; he's not welcome at the court, and then things start to simmer. Between the two. And Absalom always thought of himself as being the crown prince that eventually is going to take over. And everybody talked about him as the crown prince. I mean, he was handsome and had this flowing long hair, and, he had this charisma.
He was very beautiful.
And he gathered around him runners and followers, until eventually, what happens is that people keep saying to him, hey, you know what? Your father's getting old, and it's time for you to start thinking about succession, and then he does reconcile with David. He comes back to Jerusalem, and he does see King David after a number of years. But ultimately, it's just the rift is too far to be closed, and Absalom decides, now is it. I'm taking over, and I want to usurp the kingdom, and he causes a full-fledged rebellion, against David.
Right.
Now David doesn't know what to do here. I mean, he has to, of course, justify his own position of royalty, so he goes to war and they fight, but he's fighting half-heartedly because it's against his son.
Right.
Well, Yoav, who is his general, who also is a very mysterious kind of guy, and doesn't get a very good rap, within the Torah, because he kills Amnon, which he wasn't supposed to do, and now he's going to go to war against Absalom, and King David specifically warns him, do not kill him. Yeah.
Is Absalom younger or older than Solomon?
Older.
Oh, older.
Yeah.
So at this point, no one knows that Solomon is the crown prince,
Solomon is going to take over at 12. He's going to be 12 years old when he takes over.
Wow.
So even though that David had promised Bathsheba, but it was kind of a secret agreement,
okay. So he didn't know.
That he didn't know, Absalom thought to himself, I'm going to do it. Who else? And, right. I'm the guy. Well, to make a long story short, you can read the story. His hair gets caught in a thicket.
Wait, you're skipping so much.
What do I?
Oh, okay, fine. Go to that. That's fine. This is a story that we all grew up knowing. I knew nothing about any of the story, nothing about a rape, about killing a brother. All I knew is that Absalom's hair gets caught in a tree and he's hung by the tree. And he's dangling there, and
dangling on the tree.
That's the only part of the story.
Yoav comes there.
Yes,
and
it's such a sad ending.
And he kills him.
When inauspicious way to go.
I mean, really, it's so sad.
It's terrible. It's horrible, and he kills him. And he says, it was self-defense. He comes back because David is livid.
Right.
When he finds out that he killed him, and he mourns his son, and that's where, Absalom.
Well, we're getting there. Don't say it.
I'm not going to say anything.
Don't be so. You're ruining all the drama of the whole episode. You're going so fast.
And that's kind of.
That's the story.
That's kind of the story, the way it lays its way out. I mean, we left off a lot of the different details, but
okay. So I want to stop here for a second, because in verse 9 of chapter 18, where are we? He's riding a mule. The mule comes under the thick branches of a large elm tree. His head became entangled in the elm, and he was suspended between the heavens and the earth, while the mule that was under him moved on. So he's hanging by his hair. And
keep going, keep reading.
One man saw and told Yoav, he said, "Behold, I saw Absalom hanging from the elm." Yoav goes, and then he says, "Why don't you strike him down?" He says, "Even if I was weighing out 1,000 silver pieces upon my hand, I would not send forth my hand against the king's son." I mean, the drama of it is just really, really something.
Keep reading.
And then says, for inners, the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, "Whoever finds him, take care of the boy of Absalom. Even if he has acted deceitfully on my own, nothing remains hidden from the king, and you should stand aside." But then Yoav says, "I will not beg you anymore." He then took 3 staves in his hand and thrust them into Absalom's heart. Yet he was still alive in the midst of the elm. 10 soldiers, the armor bearers of Yoav, circled around and beat Absalom and killed him. Yoav then blew the shofar, and the people refrained from chasing after Israel, for Yoav restrained the people. They took Absalom's body and threw it in the forest into the great pit, and they erected a very large mound of stones. Meanwhile, all men of Israel fled, each man to his tent. Mm-hmm. What's interesting is, I know there's I was telling Jay about this last week, but in Jerusalem, when you drive outside of the old city and you look across towards the Mount of Olives, across the valley, there's a structure that's erected there. That's Absalom's grave. It's like a very famous little structure that you can see, that I don't know why he has such a prominent structure named for him, but it's right there. It's a sad story, but
it's
then, yeah. Do you want to say anything before I continue?
Jay's been quiet.
Well, I was gonna rewind a little bit. Do we want to keep going with this part? Because I had some questions about earlier parts of the story.
Go ahead.
Well, let's just end. Can we just end with like this one? I want to just, the last part is when King David finds out and he weeps. I mean, this is just the saddest, I think one of the saddest paragraphs in the whole Torah, where it's chapter 19, verse 1. Very, very famous. It says, the king trembled. He ascended to the upper chamber of the gateway and wept. And thus he said as he went, my son, Absalom, my son, Absalom, if only I could have died in your place. Absalom, my son, my son. That's just, I mean, there's no more painful words that the Torah could. I think it's the saddest verse in the Torah, if one of them at least.
No, it's
he's mourning. Yeah. He's devastated for his son. He lost Amnon and Absalom. He lost 2 sons. I mean, it's just very painful.
Well, actually 3, because he also lost the baby that Bathsheba was carrying.
Yeah, right, exactly. So at least 3, but maybe even more.
Yeah, at least 3. Yeah, and
then he can't even really mourn him,
right?
I mean, because Yoav comes and then rebukes him, and screams at him and says, "You're humiliating everybody that fought for you,
right?
You're overwhelmed with this sorrow for your son, but we fought for your honor, and then you're humiliating everybody." And then so David says, "Okay, you know what?" He gathers himself and comes out and greets the people, and so it's just. The tragedy is so many different multi-layers here. Multi-layers of tragedy, one after the other. But
okay, Jay, where did you want to go back to the story?
So if we go back to where Absalom kills Amnon, and he flees to Geshur for 3 years,
right?
And then at some point, David sends Joab to bring him back. Right. But then it says Absalom was in Jerusalem for 2 years and David never called him to see him.
Right.
So why did David bother bringing him back from Geshur if he was going to ignore him for 2 years?
Right. That's a good question. I wonder, like, I feel like, I don't know what the rabbis say about it, but this is my instinctive answer, is like exactly what you were saying a second ago. David was so conflicted because he probably loved him and wanted him near, but also had to save face by not having him in the court. You know what I mean? I wonder if that's partly why.
Him.
Right. He missed him. I don't know.
But it was like a standoff almost.
Yeah.
He wanted him close.
Right.
But no one knew how to make the first move. It's like an intrigue where, okay, he's back in town. If I call him, then I am kind of like minimizing what he did.
Right.
Like, I'm justifying him, and then I'm showing him grace. Absalom, on the other hand, is afraid to make the first move because he doesn't know what's going to be the reception. His father may have lured him in. Who knows what he's going to do to him? So you have here both of these people who are standing off against each other. David does not call him, but then he says, the whole parable of this man and woman, and no one calls each other, and then he calls him, they have this reunion. So the whole relationship is fraught with kind of, with love and disdain at the very same time, and fear that goes into it. It's just, it's a real tragedy. I mean, it's, I would say it's a Greek tragedy, but this came
Jewish.
Before the Greek. This is like a truly Jewish tragedy, because again, so many, you could imagine what's going on in David's heart.
It's interesting. I just listened to an episode of there's a podcast called Trigonometry, and they had on the guy from another podcast called The Rest Is History. I don't know. Did you listen to it, Jay? Anyway, it was a really good episode, and they were talking about how we view history in general and how we make moral judgments on the past, and how it's not right for us to sit here today and sort of, layer upon what happened in the past our morality right now, right? Or our moral judgments, because we don't know what we would do in that situation, or we don't understand maybe the full context and nuance of like what civilization was like, or what culture was like, or what was the normal, behavior of a father and a son or brothers or any of the things that because like inside of me, I want to like scream and yell about this story and be like, they all deserve to be killed. They're all horrible in a way. Right. I mean, this at the center of it is an innocent woman who was raped and like kind of discarded, but it's just not a real reading of history if you do that, because it's not 2025. King David didn't live in this year, right? And he wasn't, and it was just a different time. And I can't help thinking about that as I read this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that as well? I mean, do you see that?
So
yeah, I mean, I think it's.
I mean, I think if you look at chapter number 14, verse number 24, this is after Yoav goes and gets him. The king said, "Let him go around to his house, let him come back home, but I'm not going to let him not see my face." So the king specifically gives orders: let him come home. I'm okay with that. You know, he's in exile, and the woman that came to him like kind of pleaded with him to let Absalom back, but I don't want to see him. I just don't want to see him. So Absalom went around to his house, but did not see the king's face. Then he sat for 2 full years, as Jay had mentioned before. He didn't see the king's face, but then he wanted to reconcile, so he played this whole game with Yoav. Yoav plays this very game that he's very loyal to David, doesn't want to have anything to do with Absalom. And eventually they see each other, and and Absalom says, "You know what? It's my time now."
Yeah.
And not only just to show that what kind of a person he was, Achitophel, which was one of David's closest friends and advisors and teachers, turns against him.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't write a better intrigue than what happens over here. That and David is on the run. David has to leave Jerusalem. He's on the run because Absalom is powerful and he's charismatic. And then, of course, the war turns and
doesn't Achitophel end up committing suicide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
he's in pain, right?
He's a coward.
He's embarrassed. Maybe he's embarrassed. Yeah.
And this he was King David's buddy, head of brilliant scholar, I think he was the head of the Sanhedrin,
right?
Achitophel, and taught David, and then turns against him. It's you, but it's sad to say when it's so obvious. This is literally human frailty that we're seeing in front of us, and when you mix power and intrigue and all of these things you put together, you end up with this incredibly sad story that happens, and King David mourns now the loss of his son, and we don't even hear about Tamar. She's like played out of. She's written out of the script. Like she plays this part, and then she's gone, and it's just but you think about families today, because we're looking at and it's the same thing. In his book, we just finished an autobiography of Irving Berlin. And he writes there one sentence. Isaiah Berlin. Sorry, I'm thinking of a White Christmas.
No, I keep saying it too, and I have to remind myself it's not Irving Berlin. It's Isaiah Berlin.
A brilliant guy. A very interesting life that he led.
Yes.
And it's just interesting. One of the lines in the book over there is that as the 20th century was evolving and new technology was growing, people did not change. And he makes that point. That technology will evolve, people will not.
Yeah.
People will just not evolve. And now we're sitting at 2025.
Yeah.
He died in the late 1990s. And imagine how much it evolved till now. I mean, he didn't see everything, Chat GPT, and he didn't see what a cell phone is into
social media.
And yet we have come so far in technology, and we've turned it over year after year after year. We're producing now, robots and but we ourselves as human beings, if you look around the world, we're as cruel to each other as we were 3,000 years ago.
It's true.
There's a lot of treachery in the story. I think actually one of the interesting stories here is the story with Mephibosheth, So, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth. And I don't think we talked about him in the last episode, but he was the grandson of Saul. He was the son of Jonathan,
right?
And he was a cripple. And after David took the throne, he made amends with, he treated him like his son. So this was a guy who was the grandson of the king, of the former king, and a cripple. So this guy had absolutely no value to David whatsoever, but he still, made amends with him and treated him like a son. And then he comes while this is all happening, and he goes to Jerusalem, and because he thinks Absalom's going to become king of Hebron, and he's going to retake Saul's crown in Jerusalem.
Right.
And it's just like, really? I mean, this guy who had absolutely no value at all to David still does right by him. And then the first chance he gets, stabs him in the back.
Yeah. The only value that he had was that the loyalty of his father, of Jonathan.
Right.
Because Jonathan showed such loyalty to David against his best interests. Don't forget, it's not like you show loyalty and you have no fight and you have no skin in the fight. But Jonathan had skin in the fight because he was the next in line. And yet, as Saul tells him, you're such a loser because you're literally your arch enemy.
Right.
Literally, you're backing your arch enemy. Where all the glory should come to you, and you're like passing it over to David. I mean, Saul just couldn't get over that fact.
Not to make it political, but there is something interesting about the story of, I know you're going to hate this so much, but I'm saying it anyway. The story of Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, where like Hunter Biden is such a screw up and like constantly getting into trouble. But you see a father trying to protect his son, right? Like Joe Biden's the president. He has the power, and his son is like every step of the way, literally being an ass. Okay. And then but you feel for Joe Biden, right? Like you don't blame him for protecting his son. And like the reason I thought of it is like the family dynamics of powerful people is often really complicated, and the power makes it even harder. Right? When you don't have power, you're just a regular family. It's still hard. Family dynamics are still hard. When you're a
regular family, no one knows about it.
Well, that's true.
So if your family has dynamics that is, no one talking to each other, who cares?
Right.
But if your life is being lived in the public, every move that you make, and imagine the president of the United States, every move that he makes is scrutinized from different ways, and we're so polarized that people just, if you just took just like you said, just take the politics out of it.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is a good man. I mean, and he's trying to help his son.
Right.
His son's a screw up.
Exactly.
But because we live in this polarized thing, look at him, he's covering up for him.
Right.
He's covering up for him. It's,
exactly.
Who would not do that?
Right.
You don't think if Bobby Kennedy was alive today, he wouldn't justify this nut that we have here as Secretary of
RFK Jr.
RFK Jr. He'd find a way to say, hey, he's been in the sun too much. I don't know. Something, like who knows what.
He has a parasite in his brain.
Parasite. And it's just, it's every father's
that's what I'm saying.
To protect.
This is what happens in the Torah as well. The fathers want to protect their kids at the end. I mean,
it's not, imagine if Hunter Biden went out and campaigned for Trump.
Right.
I mean, Hunter Biden is undermining Joe Biden by literally, publicly backing his enemy.
It would be really hard.
That's what just happened over here. Yeah. This is what's going on. He's like, so it's the intrigue is overwhelming, but you know what? It's not shocking.
Yeah.
That's the part.
Right.
It's not shocking because these are human. I hate to use the term human beings because David is held up to his greatest esteem as one of the 7 great shepherds. And I have to tell you, it was what literature says about King David, all of that stuff. But if you just read the story itself, then these are individuals that,
It's just so interesting that in the New Testament, in the Christian Bible, like the stories they tell about Jesus are all like these amazing stories where he, turned water into wine and he fed 1,000 people and he healed, all the sick and everything. And the stories like Lahavdil, but like the stories that the Torah tells about King David are so problematic. Like these are like, where are those stories about King David where he, besides for David and Goliath, I mean, is there a story here that's like telling us how amazing he is and what
he unites the kingdom. He leads for 40 years.
Right.
He's king. He does a lot of great things
too. Right. Of course. I know he does.
The boundaries of Israel.
He makes Jerusalem the capital.
Buys Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of great things that he does. He leaves us with a tremendous legacy.
Yeah.
King David. But this is the difference. If you go through history, the Bible will tell you that the old. I don't want to use the word Old and New Testament.
The Hebrew Bible,
The Hebrew Bible is an angry God with angry people.
Yeah.
And the other Bible, their book, is just a nice guy.
Right.
He's a nice guy. I mean, how could you fault him? I mean, he does all nice things. But the authors there, they never really met him. The authors. I don't want to get into the Christian Bible. Right. No expert on that, but it's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in the Christian Bible, God sacrifices his own son, which at least in our Bible, no one does that.
That's true.
No one. God stops Abraham from sacrificing his son.
Right.
And there, for some odd reason, I don't know why, God, lets him get crucified, and he allows himself to get crucified on the cross.
Right.
So but coming back to ours. We read this not because we want to get depressed. We read this because we want to learn a lesson from this. The Torah is from Lashon Hara.
Right.
The Torah is from the term to teach and to learn a lesson. And I think the lesson is, my friends, that you have to be extremely, extremely careful in how you live. And the more powerful you are, your acts are going to be magnified 1,000,000 degrees. 1,000,000 degrees. So everything that you do and everything that you say, and how you act, you have to literally go through a period of judgment to every word and how you say it and what you say, because otherwise this is the end result. And if you don't do it, and you see great leaders within Judaism worried about this. They worried about this, and
right.
And unfortunately, this is the end result of a painful situation.
So on Joab, so you mentioned that after David is lamenting that his son is dead,
I'm just going to get to
Joab comes in.
Yeah, just cousin.
I'll read this. Right, but he's also his military leader, right?
Exactly.
Joab?
This is so important. I literally wrote in my notes to read it out loud. You should read it. It's so important.
Oh, okay. So this is 2 Samuel chapter 19 verses 6 and 7. And Joab says so this is after David has won, and now he's going to regain his kingdom. So he's going to go back to Jerusalem, but Absalom is killed, and he's lamenting the fact that Absalom was killed.
He's grieving. He's grieving.
Right. And then Joab comes to him and says, "Today you have humiliated all your followers, who this day saved your life and the lives of your sons and your daughters, and the lives of your wives and concubines, by showing love for those who hate you, and hate for those who love you. You have made clear today that the officers and servicemen mean nothing to you. I am sure that if Absalom were alive today and the rest of us dead, you would have preferred us."
So that is so powerful and so relevant. It feels so relevant today also.
So like, where does Joab get the stones to speak to David like this.
If you know him, I don't trust this guy as far as I can throw him. He has a vested interest in all of this, and eventually it's going to come back to bite him, because he's not. I don't believe him for a moment. Everything that he does is calculated. Everyone that he kills is with a calculation. There's nothing. What I would call not worthy. There's another word about this guy. Like wholesome about this person. So I understand what he's saying, and it is true. But after everything is said and done, Absalom is still a son.
Yeah,
Absalom is still a son, and it's a tragic situation. Leave the man alone.
Right.
Say, hey, you know what? Look, we understand you, and but
take your moment to grieve.
Take your moment, but eventually you have to come back to the people.
Right.
His rebuke to him, I think, is unnecessary.
Right. I think it's something interesting for American Jews in general. That one line that you hate those who love you love those who hate you, and hate those who love you. And there's something so powerful about that statement in this current moment right now, when it comes to the way we view who supports Jews, who doesn't support Jews, how we view it, and who we bring into our tent and who we leave out. It's just an interesting idea to think about who actually, take a second, look around, who actually loves you, who are your enemies. Make sure you're with the right people. It's I know.
Today it's a tough one today, because most people see the one thing about the biblical times, people were engaged.
Right.
The vast majority of people were engaged. You fought a war. There
you
was
had
a rebellion.
To be. Yeah.
There were things going on. You had to choose sides. Today our problem is apathy. Even now after October 7th, when all of a sudden there was this incredible uplifting and from tragedy there was inspiration, but now we've kind of settled down into this. There are going to be those that are going to want to, that are always advocating, and then they're activists, and they're still advocating and being active. But I find for most American Jews, I think Israel is problematic. I think for most American Jews,
I agree.
It's problematic. I mean, on one hand, you want to support them because it's a Jewish country and you're Jewish, so you have a natural affinity to them. But but the way Israel is being portrayed, it makes you feel tremendously uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it's like King David.
Because your values are not in line with what's going on. If you see today the Wall Street Journal, which is not an anti-Israel newspaper, it's balanced, tries to be balanced, but you see a Palestinian kid with a plate, through please food, and every day you're getting this. So for most American Jews who are secular, see this, it makes them feel extremely uncomfortable.
It's the same way that you do, and it's the same way you feel when you read about King David. You can read about King David and be like, "Oh, it's too complicated. He's so problematic. I don't know if he's not really heroic because of all the things." Or you can say,
"It doesn't affect you really."
But but it's the same idea. There are those Jews who are going to look at King David and say, "King David was a great leader, great king. He had some issues." The same way we look at Israel and say Israel's a great country, it has some problems. I'm just saying the camp of people who look at Israel as problematic will also look at King David as that. And the same people who look at King David and read it in the way that we do will read Israel today in that way.
So I said that most people, I don't know, I have to take a survey, but I think most people would prefer not to, they're apathetic to it.
Yeah.
They're just apathetic to it. They don't want to deal with it. They're not interested. They'll skip over the story in the newspaper, a story about Israel. They'll skip it over, and they'll just not care. I mean, they'll just not care. They're not going to go there now. They're not going to visit.
Well, they should learn more Torah.
I know it's sad.
Well, I think because there's a lot of people. I think that it's I think like you guys said, it's inconvenient for them. It makes their lives a little bit less comfortable.
Yes.
And
that is the right word.
It's inconvenience.
Yeah.
It's inconvenience.
And you see people online who are basically saying like, can't the Jews? Can't we just go back to like making blintzes and and challah and do all the fun Jewish stuff.
The thing about what was going on before October the 7th.
Yeah.
So before October 7th, most American Jews, forget what was going on in Israel. Israel was complicated already.
Yeah.
It was roiling.
Yeah.
I mean, because of demonstrations every day against him, the judiciary issue that was going on. Forget about what was going on in Israel. That didn't really, who cared? I mean, it was a complicated issue.
Yeah, Americans didn't even understand it.
Yeah. They want to change the judiciary. He wants to. He doesn't want to.
Right.
Then also on October 7th happened. We were forced now to confront that something's going on in Israel. We felt terrible. We all rallied at the JCCs around the country. We sent money to support Israel. And now we've gotten back into this, not back to our former state where we were just sitting in ignorance and is bliss that, what was going on in Israel was who cares? Now it's making it inconvenient.
Yeah.
Because your neighbors are now asking you questions. You're now being confronted at work. Why is Israel doing this? As if you are the perpetrator.
Yeah.
I'm not a perpetrator. I don't even care. You understand? Israel means nothing to me. I don't support it. But your name is Goldberg or Silverman or whatever it is. So automatically you are a perpetrator. And that makes American Jews uncomfortable with this Israel. So you blame it on Bibi. It's not the Jews. It's Bibi. It's Bibi. It's Bibi. So,
well, I think it's also for those people, they don't know anything. They're getting their information from the same garbage sources that everyone else is getting their information from because they don't know anything.
Young people, especially young people.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why I'm saying that studying King David's life in the Torah, right, and reading these books and learning them, it really helps you be able to look at what's happening in Israel with the nuance and understanding that not everything is black and white, and that things are, because I know we have a group chat with friends. We're in a big group chat, Jay and I, with a lot of our friends, and we talk about Israel all day, and our own friends who are extremely Zionist and very pro-Israel. But the second something happens that is slightly uncomfortable, they don't know what to do with themselves. And I'm not calling anyone out, but I'm just saying, a hospital gets hit. Someone made a mistake, or an Israeli soldier didn't listen to his commanding officer and, he did something wrong, whatever. Everything kind of falls apart for them. It's like on sand, right? And all of a sudden it's gone. The whole foundation of their support for Israel is gone. But when you understand the Torah and you can look at a character like King David, right? And you can understand that life is not black and white. It's not simple. It's not a fairy tale. This isn't a movie that Hollywood made that's just going to be a simple answer. And in a way, World War II, I think, I just been thinking about this a lot because I'm reading all these stupid books that Jay's telling me I have to read. But I think part of the issue is that World War II was kind of black and white for a lot of people. And we got comfortable with that, because there was the evil and there was the good
guys,
and we knew what to do and we knew how to handle it. But that's not real life. I mean, that was one war.
I think this war is more, I would equate, and equate is not really the good word, but I would think it's more in the line of Vietnam.
Right.
Where, in the beginning, when America said, "Hey, you know what? We're out there to protect, democracy, and democracy is going to, you send a few soldiers over there, fine." But as the war dragged on and dragged on and dragged on, you lost the American people.
Yeah,
you lost the American people. And American people were looking at this war and saying, "What? For what purpose?" And I'm feeling that Israel is kind of in the same space right now, where even in Israel right now, people are questioning, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? A year ago, you didn't hear that. A year ago, we thought, we're still mopping up. We're going to get rid of Hamas. We're going to establish some kind of whatever is going to happen in Gaza. And I think today, I don't know if Israel's government has been able to really articulate in a clear sense what is the long-term position here. We're going to take Gaza. I mean,
and then what?
And then what? And we're going to keep soldiers there at all time at the cost of billions of dollars and loss of lives. So to me, it seems like deja vu all over again when the body bags started to come. And what we're seeing now is these poor Palestinians, and they're driving the narrative. They're driving. So me and you and Jay, we were committed, Zionists, and we're committed to Israel, but the typical American Jew is not us.
Yeah.
It's not us. And even religious Jews, are uncomfortable. It's just we're in a very inconvenient. Like Jay said, the right word exactly. It's the inconvenience of having to defend something that is not you.
Right.
It's not me. Yeah. What do you want from me? Go talk to me.
I think the other issue is for American Jews is every analogy that gets used about this war is inexact. There's no war that's been fought certainly in modern history that has anything like this. Because even the example you use of, people talk about Vietnam or they talk about Afghanistan or Iraq, those wars were 10,000 miles away from us. Like that was like, America, if we never fought those wars, certainly if we never fought Vietnam, what would have happened? Yeah. I mean, were the Vietnamese going to come and bomb America? No. So none of those wars were existential threats. And that's the fundamental difference is if Israel doesn't finish this war, then they are leaving a truly existential threat a rock's throw away from their children. Mm-hmm. And there's no other example of, certainly, like I said, in the first worlds, there might be, I'm sure there are examples of other places in the world that I'm not familiar with, but certainly of first world countries in modern history, there's no other example. Even Piers Morgan, he was on trigonometry and he was talking about the troubles with the IRA and the UK. And it's like, it's not synonymous. Right. Because the IRA's goal was not to destroy the UK. It was not to murder every English person.
Right.
So that they had legitimate grievances certainly the way they were carrying out their grievances, it was not the right way to do it, but they had legitimate grievances where they could be met midway. They could be met part way and they could be resolved. There's no meeting halfway with someone whose goal is your eradication.
We agree.
It's just, I think the biggest issue here is that there's no comparison. Like people have no paradigm to look at this through in anything they've learned in the past. And so they try to put the square peg in the round hole of other things that kind of are sort of similar in some ways, but actually in very important ways, nothing like it.
Right. Yeah. I think that the three of us agree to that. I mean, we agree wholeheartedly that leaving Hamas around is a net. But I don't think the majority of Jews believe that. I don't think the majority of Jews believe that Hamas is an existential threat to Israel. What you see right now is, for the past 2 years, is this one big overwhelming bully in the Middle East that has taken out Iran like nothing.
But do you know why they don't believe that? They don't believe that because they don't know anything.
Right.
They're so uneducated. If they knew one thing, they would know that.
That's neither here nor there.
Well, it is because a failure on our part that they don't know any of that. They should know that.
But the reality on the ground is, look, it would be great if we can go to every single Jew in America and sit there and educate them and go through. But the reality on the ground is that most American Jews don't believe it's an existential threat. Because all they see is that the ones that are suffering now are not the Israelis. It's not the soldiers that are coming. It's the poor Palestinians that are being starved out.
Yeah,
that's who the threat is against, and they're believing it.
Yeah,
and they're believing it. Now you're correct, of course, and Jay's also correct that there is a lack of knowledge, and American Jews are ignorant not only to Israel, to the Torah, to anything.
Exactly.
They're ignorant to, but that doesn't change the fact that this is the problem that we're facing right now. Is that we're fighting a physical war in the Middle East, and we're fighting a war here at home.
Right.
We're fighting a war here.
I would say, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I would say that to me, if someone came and asked me, what can we do right now for American Jews, right? What would be the most helpful thing? It's not even to sit down and do a class on the history of the conflict in Israel since 1948. To me, it's reading Samuel, right? It's actually reading through the prophets and the Torah and understanding, like when this is in your veins and in your blood, the whole rest of the story of the Jewish people from then on is self-understood. You understand that the enemies are going to constantly try and destroy the Jewish people. You're going to understand that the Jewish people have this tie to the land of Israel that is something that you can't take away or explain, right? And I mean, there's so many, you're going to understand our whole history. And I think we spend too much time trying to teach the kids in Hebrew school or in day schools, about the 6-Day War and even about the different types of Zionism, right? Like, why does a kid care if there's revisionist Zionism or political Zionism? Give them the story of King David and what they sacrificed for the land of Israel 3,000 years ago. And we will do so much better at being able to talk about the war in Israel today. And it's not just for kids. I'm saying it for adults too. I mean, it's really, I don't know. This is how I feel. I don't know if you agree with me, but
no, absolutely. Listen, there's no question about it. I mean, the more that you tie to the Torah and the Torah story and all of that, we know that
you don't need to talk about
unbreakable bond with Israel. Yeah, there's no question about it.
My kids who are rooted in Torah, I'm sorry to say this, but I don't mean to sound like patronizing or whatever, but like my boys who are rooted in Torah study and understand where they come from, they don't need to have a class on how to read the media and understand bias against Israel, because it's instinctive. They get it. They understand it just from breathing the air that they do from studying Torah. So if we can make one pitch, that's my pitch on education today.
Of course.
I think the other issue is, we've talked about this before, that I think that these feelings about Israel is actually a symptom of a much bigger issue.
Yeah.
Which is that so many of our kids now have been taught that there's nothing special about Western culture.
Well, that's true too.
That's for sure.
And I think that, so I don't think the Israel thing stands alone. It is certainly a distinct issue that we're particularly concerned with, but it's all part of the same. It's all part of the same thing. If you don't think there's anything special about Western civilization, then why would you think anything special about Israel?
Right.
I mean, it's all tied up together. So that's where I think that there's Jewish education, more Jewish education, getting more Jewish kids into Jewish education is obviously really important, but we can't ignore the fact that the complete, I don't know what the right word is, the complete decimation of just our overall educational system in America is a massive issue.
Right.
It's a massive underlying issue.
Right. Well, my kids just texted me that they burned the pot at the hot dog. I am not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm going to read just the way I just read King David's word. I'm reading my son. All the water is gone and it smells like something burned. So they've destroyed.
Well, did you tell them that they had to? Did you tell them they had to take the hot dogs out of the water?
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. They put in like 1 inch of water.
I don't know.
Obviously. I mean,
okay.
How could the water?
Great.
Well, you know what? That's a perfect bookend for. Yeah, exactly. We started with making hot dogs and we'll end with burning hot dogs.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for this.
This takes us to the end of.
This is the end of.
There's still some more.
I know, but people can read it on their own.
There's a plague and a census and this and that, but they can read to the end.
Yes.
I think next time we pick up the story of Kings.
Kings 1, and we'll Kings is 2 books also.
Correct.
So we'll do a couple of episodes on that. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
And for everyone at home, if you're making hot dogs, make sure there's water in the pot.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.